Hi, I'm Markus Thunecke. I'm a co-founder and senior partner at Catenion. Catenion is a science-driven strategy consulting firm with an exclusive focus on the biopharma industry. Catenion started systematically analyzing R&D productivity of pharma companies about 10 years ago, because good analysis on this topic was simply not available back then. Most companies only tracked approvals of new molecular entities, and everyone always claimed to beat the average, which is mathematically impossible. So, what is our methodology in a nutshell? We define R&D productivity as 10 years spending adjusted for the cost of M&A as the denominator and net present value of the pipeline plus value of products launched in the last 8 years as the long-term ratio, or just NPV of pipeline as the short-term ratio as the numerator. In addition, we have tracked corporate growth performance in terms of sales, EBITDA, and market cap for the 30 largest public biopharma companies. The million-dollar question is, what have we learned in 10 years of systematic analyses? To answer this, I will first walk you through some of the clusters of phenotypes of company performances that we have found. And after that, we will go into which are the key drivers of success in terms of R&D productivity. The first cluster contains just one company, Novo Nordisk. It's the lone winner in R&D productivity over the years, always showing up in the top 5. Its stock has increased by 563%, and it defines a league on its own. The reasons for Novo's outperformance can be found in their relentless focus on metabolic disease, mostly diabetes, and now most recently the huge hope associated with its anti-obesity medications Wegovy and Ozempic that are based on the same GLP-1 agonist class that has proven a massive success already in diabetes. Novo is also a testimony for the relevance of internal research, as the company's productivity was for many years exclusively driven by internal strength, not by deals. This is now changing as the company has grown substantially and has started to increasingly acquire and in-license assets to fuel its pipeline. The second cluster contains two very interesting turnaround champions that started as typical big pharma underperformance, dealing with patent cliffs and poor in-house productivity. AstraZeneca, making its way up the ranking, is a fascinating case study of the power of portfolio decision-making coupled to strong and focused internal and external innovation. AZ's use of a decision framework called 5R is well publicized, so I don't need to go into it here, but the main point is that improving decision-making is much cheaper than spending billions on new technologies and poorly designed clinical studies. Even though most people would agree to that, it's nevertheless incredibly hard to implement at a large pharma, as there are many barriers, often represented by a multitude of overlapping committees, consisting of senior leaders who are removed from individual programs and take decisions based on highly polished presentations. Lilly, the other member of this cluster, also represents a remarkable turnaround story. A change in its approach to R&D was triggered through the acquisition of Loxo that essentially took over Lilly Oncology, and ultimately Dan Skoronsky becoming head of R&D, wanting to bring more accountability and nimbleness to the model by mimicking biotech-like structures and governance. Of course, the other main factors in both companies' turnaround were great internally discovered programs such as Tagrisso at AstraZeneca and tirzepatide at Lilly. The performance of these two companies has been a staggering 572% since 2014. However, most of the stock appreciation happened in the last 2 years. The third phenotype contains companies that benefited from recent upsurges, not in all cases sustainable. These include Pfizer, whose stock performance was driven up tremendously by COVID, and it's now falling back again. Daiichi Sankyo, whose performance is due to its antibody-drug conjugate success and deals. And last but not least, Eisai, whose upsurge is driven almost exclusively by Alzheimer antibodies. Overall, this still makes for an impressive 229%. All of these performances are against the S&P 500, essentially remaining flat. Another interesting group is made up of Biogen and Gilead, which have failed to scale up their once tremendous R&D and corporate growth outperformance, having been in the early years of our ranking always in the top 10. Both companies' stock performance has now been flat. Find out more details and read about other clusters in our publication. So, what are the factors that have a positive effect on R&D productivity? The first one is size. The top 10 ranking contains more mid-sized companies than very large pharma. Size is a burden when it comes to R&D productivity above a certain critical mass threshold of 1 to 2 billion R&D budget. It's well known that creativity and innovation are easier to orchestrate in smaller units with less bureaucracy, high individual accountability, and some creative freedom than in a massive R&D organization with 10 layers of hierarchy between the top and the bench level. The second factor is focus. It's long been known that the ability to double down on complex scientific areas creates an advantage over spreading resources thinly over diverse areas. The third factor is the therapeutic area mix. Some TAs are more likely to lead to good productivity than others. An often neglected factor is the ability to create spin-off indications after the initial proof of concept. This is one of the reasons why oncology has an intrinsic productivity advantage over other areas. CNS is an inherently difficult area due to lack of objective endpoints, high placebo response rates, and often poorly understood disease biology. The cardiovascular area also correlates negatively with R&D productivity, given the huge trials with small effect sizes required. The fourth factor is to have key high-value assets in the portfolio. The best thing for R&D productivity is having a pipeline in a product. The trick is to realize this early enough and then go broad. For example, Merck & Co.'s strategy with Keytruda comes from that playbook, and also what is now slowly happening with the GLP-1 class. The fifth factor is really the balance between internal versus external innovation. And this next one is probably the most unexpected. Over the years, there has been an increasingly strong narrative that if you want to perform, you need to source innovation externally, because large pharma has failed to establish an effective model for research, and while large pharma has maintained internal research for political and other reasons, they've sought solace in buying innovation exclusively or almost exclusively externally. The so-called search and develop model was the flavor of the day. As usual with strong narratives, there is some truth to it, but it's not the whole story. We have observed that it is internal R&D that is behind the performance of many top 10 companies. AZ's Tagrisso and Novo Nordisk and Lilly's GLPs are just a few examples of internally derived super high value assets. External innovation is not unimportant. Most companies have established successful hybrid models where they can pursue both successfully. So external innovation also benefits from strong internal capabilities, as it allows companies to pick the winners early before everyone has them on the radar and can help steer throughout co-development, as an example. To summarize, our analysis brings key learnings from the industry and provides hope for organizations that struggle with poor R&D productivity, as it shows that outperformance even over longer periods of time is possible. However, probably the biggest challenge is to keep this up over time and during periods of strong growth without falling into the trap of massive bureaucracy and poor ownership that are usually at the root of inadequate decision-making and low R&D productivity. The cases of AZ and Lilly show that even large pharma can come back from longer periods of underperformance. Investing into the quality of decision-making is probably the quickest way of improving R&D productivity. At Catenion, we've been supporting our clients to design better operating models and implement powerful portfolio management approaches for more than 20 years. Read our full report on our website, and if you'd like to discuss this topic further, please feel free to contact us.